At the end of last week, we had financial reform, and of course, as usual, the Obama team let out a little, and mission accomplished, the whole thing. I started saying that about healthcare reform. Now everybody's writing about it in terms of financial reform as well, and saw a story out there saying, hey, you know what, Obama's going to go campaign saying that he did this wonderful financial reform and everything's fixed now. That's a disastrous idea because nothing is fixed. Now let me give you the specifics. Why do I have significant trouble with this bill? Point number one, here is the New York Times writing an article about how Wall Street's reacting to it. One veteran investment banker said, quote, if you talk to anyone privately, there's a sigh of relief. In other words, the bill didn't do nothing. Okay? They thought, whew, we thought they might do actually something. No, they didn't do a damn thing. He says, at most, it will cut into their profits 15 to 20%, but there's no breakup of any institution or any onerous new taxes. Another investment banker says, nah, at most, it'll cut into profits by about 4%, but we'll get to keep doing business exactly as it is. Now, look, I don't want to cut in their profits. It's not about, oh, they're making too much profit. It's about, did you fix the system? And here, they're saying, oh, thank God they didn't actually fix the system. So, that might cost me a little bit here and there, but I'm going to keep doing the same highway robbery I was before. A guy who used to work in the Clinton Treasury Department, Roger Altman, who's now chairman of Evercore Partners, says the healthcare bill, get a load of this quote, the healthcare bill is going to transform the structure of healthcare exponentially more than this legislation on financial regulation is going to change Wall Street. It's not even close, he says. So if you thought healthcare reform was weak sauce, wait till you get a load of how weak financial reform is. They're laughing at us. Wall Street's laughing. This is what you got. Obama, change. Pocket change. Easy pushover. Let me give you specifics on what's wrong with the bill. Here's quoting the New York Times. The Senate rejected rules that would have broken up huge banks considered too big to fail, or impose limits on their size. Caps on how much banks can charge credit card holders to borrow also fell by the wayside. And the long-established wall between trading and commercial banking, which was torn down in 1999, will not be going back up. Okay? 0 for 4. Nicely done. Another reason for relief, several bankers said, is that neither the Senate version of the bill nor the one passed by the House in December includes the more populist provisions that have gained foothold in Europe, like a tax on financial transactions or individual bonuses. So we leave the structure exactly as it is. We didn't break up too big to fail, etc., as I explained to you. And we didn't even say, hey, you know what, financial transaction tax or a bonus tax that Europe is doing that is eminently reasonable because they're making all that money, their salaries, their bonuses, the profits of the banks because of the easy credit we're giving them and the backdoor bailouts we're giving them, let alone the actual flat-out money we gave them. They're taking our money and running with it, and we're not doing a damn thing about it. And then New York Times said, as I have said over and over, the one thing that's, there are two things that are good in the bill. One is on the ratings agencies. The Senator Franken passed that amendment. That's solid. The second is, hey, Lincoln's amendment on derivatives, right? Don't get too excited about that because derivatives are very, very important, and they would have to split them from the banks, except they still have to do the Senate and the House version, and the New York Times says in that conference committee, that provision is, quote, likely to be shelved or watered down. You think they're going to actually do a tough provision? I don't think so. Another banker said this legislation is not going to kill business. Even if their profit margins are reduced, the derivatives business will compare favorably to more traditional banking activities like commercial lending. You understand the downside of that? He said, look, we're not going to lend any more money, and new numbers are in on that. They stopped lending completely. They're like, no, we're going to do the profitable stuff, which is the derivatives trading. So we're going to suck up all that taxpayer money and easy credit, and we're not going to lend it out to small businesses or large businesses. We're going to use it to gamble more because you didn't stop us. Change you can believe in. All right, worse details. It is riddled with loopholes. Here come the loopholes. This is now quoting the Associated Press. The bill exempts companies that use derivatives to reduce the risk of fluctuations in interest rates and commodity prices. So they say, oh, we need the exemptions for just those specific areas. But as they explain, experts say this exception could be exploited. Really? You think the companies might exploit those exceptions? Companies could, for example, find ways to combine traditional business activities with purely financial investment through the use of derivatives. Giant loophole number one. Now, on top of the fact that they didn't even actually fix anything, there's still these giant loopholes in there. Now, loophole number two, smaller banks could still choose their own regulator. These banks would likely seek out the most lenient oversight. Boy, we did sweeping financial reform. The smaller banks can choose their own regulator. Oh, I'd like to have Bob. Bob seems a nice guy. I think he's going to take it easy on me. Oh, wow, we got really tough on him. Key advocates for that loophole were the Independent Community Bankers of America and the American Bankers Association. Big surprise. How about loophole number three? The Senate voted against capping how much banks can bet relative to their reserves. It left that up to same regulators who failed to properly monitor banks' risk-taking before the crisis. So there is no cap on how much they can bet relative to the money that they have. So what the hell did we do in this reform? Okay, loophole number four. The Senate bill lets regulators decide whether to protect the creditors of the failed banks. The bill does little to prevent the big banks from getting bigger, meaning taxpayers might have to intervene again. A Democratic amendment to limit the size of the banks was rejected amid opposition from the banks such as Goldman Sachs. So no limit on the size, and we're told, hey, trust the regulators. If it turns out there's a problem, they'll break up the big banks, even though that's exactly what they didn't do last time. And there's no reason to believe they'll do it this time. Loophole number five. The Consumer Watchdog's authority would be confined to the firms with at least $10 billion in assets. Thousands of community banks wouldn't be supervised by the consumer agency at all, nor would many non-banks, where a lot of this fishy transactions happen. The Chamber of Commerce has led the push to limit the reach of the consumer agency. The payday lending industry and the National Automobile Dealers Association have joined the effort. Enjoy that gigantic loophole where the pay lenders can still charge you up to 600% interest. That was called loan sharking in the past. Did that get addressed in the bill? Nope. This bill is a J-O-K-E. Joke. All right, last loopholes for you guys. Now, Cantwell had an amendment to say, hey, you know what? We're saying that we're going to put all the derivatives on a market, so at least there's transparency. That's supposed to be one of the golden things about this bill. Aha! Reform! But she read the fine print, and it said, if you don't do it, well, there's absolutely no penalty. So she wanted to introduce an amendment saying, well, if you break that law, there should be a penalty. Nope, got spiked. They killed it. So even if you don't put it on the market, there will be no penalty. And guess who gets to decide whether they put that on the markets entirely and who the clearing houses are going to be? I'm sure you're going to be shocked to find out that, yes, the banks will run their own clearing houses that get to decide what goes on the open market and what doesn't. And then there's a final little one that says that the banking committee dropped the term trading facility, which then led to another loophole letting them exempt even more derivatives trading from open view. In the end, you're going to have almost no open view on the derivatives trading, and even if you did and they didn't put it on there, there's no penalty. This bill is horrible, horrible. That's why Wall Street is celebrating today, saying, oh, and most of the major banks on Friday, they went up 5%, their stock market value. They're like, this is what Obama had to offer? Wow. This is a change Wall Street can believe in. Look, what's going to happen here, I've made this prediction before. I'll do it again here if you like. This is going to lead to a worldwide economic collapse. We have done nothing to fix it. And they think that they're being cute. They're playing politics. Oh, we'll say we fixed it, and the media will cover it, and every story. Now, look, the AP story is great. The New York Times story is great. And the Newsweek story, Michael Hirsch, great. They're the ones that explain the loopholes. But even some of them lead with, and every other story leads with, sweeping financial reform, as if the job got done. There's nothing sweeping about this. So in the end, they will take too many risks. They will bet too much money without enough capital to make more profit in the short term, and they will crash. And when those banks crash, they're going to take everyone down with them, including possibly the United States government, because we don't have enough money. We already put an extra $1 trillion in the Fed. We've already put in close to $200 billion in the AIG and Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. We don't have money anymore. Well, for when the next crash happens, there is no more bailouts because we ran out of money. The problem is when there's no more bailouts and the next crash happens, it's an absolute financial debacle. And I think it's going to affect the whole world. And then they'll look back and go, oh, yeah, it turns out that financial reform didn't get the job done. And they'll say no one could have seen it coming except for all the people here that see it coming.